जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जसोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना। जसोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना। जसोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जमुना तीरा वनचारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra Radhe.
Jaya Radha Krishna Chandra, Radha Krishna Chandra Radhe.
Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga.
Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga.
Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada,
Prabhupada.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtottara Shuddha Shri Srimad Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtottara Shuddha Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 14th Chapter, text number 26. Nayasya loke svajana parova Natyadrito nota kaschid vigaryaya Vayam vratairya pavidham आशास्महे जाम्बत भुक्तभोगाम् न यस्य लोके स्वजनः परो वा नात्यादृतो नोत कश्चिद्विगर्ह्यया वयं व्रतैर्यच्चरणापविद्धम् आशास्महे जाम्बत भुक्तभोगाम् न यस्य लोके स्वजनः परो वा नात्यादृतो नोत कश्चिद्विगर्ह्यया वयं व्रतैर्यच्चरणापविद्धाम् आशास्महे जाम्बत भुक्तभोगाम् Word to word meaning na, never, yasya, of whom, loke, in the world, svajanaha, kinsman, paraha, unconnected, va, nor, na, neither, ati, greater, adritaha, favorable, na, not, uta, or, kaschit, anyone, vigaryaha, criminal, vayam, we, vrataihi, by vows, yag, whose, charana, feet, apavidham, rejected, ashasmahe, respectfully worship, ajham, mahaprasada, bata, certainly, bhukta bhogam, remnants of foodstuff. Translational purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as very favorable or abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his footstuff and we vow to accept what is rejected by him. Please repeat the translation. Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as very favorable or abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his footstuff and we vow to accept what is rejected by him. Purport. Kashyapa informed his wife that just because Lord Shiva happened to be his brother-in-law, that should not encourage her in her offense towards him. Kashyapa warned her that actually Lord Shiva is not connected with anyone, nor is anyone his enemy. Since he is one of the three controllers of the universal affairs, he is equal to everyone. His greatness is incomparable because he is a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said that among all the devotees of the Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva is the greatest. Thus, the remnants of foodstuff left by him are accepted by other devotees as Mahaprasad or great spiritual foodstuff. The remnants of foodstuff offered to Lord Krishna are called prasada, but when the same prasada is eaten by a great devotee like Lord Shiva, it is called Mahaprasada. Lord Shiva is so great that he does not care for the material prosperity for which every one of us is so eager. Parvati, who is a powerful material nature personified, is under his full control as his wife. Yet he does not use her even to build a residential house. He prefers to remain without shelter, and his great wife also agrees to live with him humbly. People in general worship goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity. But Lord Shiva engages her in his service without material desire. He simply advises his great wife that of all kinds of worship, the worship of Vishnu is the highest. And greater than that is the worship of a great devotee or anything in relation with Vishnu. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। न यस्य लोके स्वजनः परो वा नाथ्यादृतो नोत कश्चिद् विगर्ह्यया वयं व्रते चरणापविद्धाम् आश्वास्महे झाम बतभुक्त भोगाम। Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as favorable or abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his footsteps and we vow to accept what is rejected by him. So here we can see how Kashyapa Muni is telling Lord Shiva, Diti about Lord Shiva and his qualities. So Lord Shiva is an exalted person. Prabhupada makes the point that of all the devotees of Lord Vishnu, Shiva is the topmost. Vaishnavanam yata Shambho. Of all the Vaishnavas, Shambhu is the highest Vaishnava. So that being the case, Kashyapa is telling that don't think just because Lord Shiva is your relative, because Diti's sister Sati is the wife of Lord Shiva. So here in this verse, very nicely Kashyapa is pointing out, don't think just because Shiva is your relative, by indulging in a immoral act, you can get away with it. You can see in the material world, everybody looks to, they flaunt their connections in the material world. That, hey, what you're talking, man, that person is my relative, this person is known to me, like that. And they say that nobody can do anything for me. because so and so person is related to me. So this dehatma buddhi, sense of bodily connections, is so prominent in the material world that we identify with material connections. That is the dehatma buddhi consciousness. In dehatma buddhi consciousness, you always flaunt connections with this person, that person. He is my father, he is my brother, he is my sister. So you cannot touch them. Just like, for example, in the material world, say somebody tells bad about our family members, people feel upset about it. Oi, you're talking about my family member, you're talking about my father, you're talking about my mother, you're talking about my sister. How can you talk like this? People will immediately get upset about it. But the same thing, see, that is material consciousness. In material world, you see, when somebody talks, Jai Shri Shri radhekrishnaworld Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga. In the material world, if somebody is abusing, telling bad about a person who is not your relative or friend or anybody, then full you will take maja in that, pleasure. Everybody will participate in that. But as soon as it comes to your known person, your family member, your known person also, in that known person also categories are there. Right? So that clearly shows that it is dehatma buddhi. We identify with bodily connections. Whereas Lord Shiva is not like that. Samoham sarvabhuteshu. Prabhupada is making the point here. A person of the stature of Lord Shiva, he sees everybody equally. Not that, oh, he is my relative, he is my friend, he is known to me, so he is something extra for me. No. They are seeing everything on the level of spirit, not on the level of matter. As soon as you make the distinction that he is my relative, he is unknown to me, he is bad, he is good, all these are material consciousness. Actions coming out of material conditioning. So Kashyapa is saying, please don't think like if you're thinking, let me indulge in this. Just like a spoiled brat of a rich person or a powerful person. He thinks in this consciousness. Are, who can catch me? I am the son of so and so. I am related to so and so. Nobody can do anything for me. So I will violate the rules. This is the consciousness of a spoiled brat, a rich, material conscious person. Because he thinks he can get away. And many times they do get away. In the material world, their relatives will come and help them. Just like you see, in the material world, especially in Kali Yuga, and in India especially, we can see that how a person who is a rich man, if he is a rich man's son or a powerful man's son or relative does something criminal, the law also treats him little differently. Although in paper the law is supposed to treat everybody equal, but in reality we can see that the law is different for a person born in rich family, powerful family. The law treats him differently. So that is the deficiency of the material world. Whereas Lord Shiva does not belong to this material world. So don't think, Kashyapa is telling Diti that don't think Shiva is like that. That he is my brother-in-law, so what is there? And he is supposed to do no. Ultimately, he is the home minister. So he is supposed to judge us and take action for us. So he will oh, after all, she's my sister's, my wife's sister, so I should oversee all these kind of things. No. Shiva won't be like that. If you make a mistake, he will take proper action. Yes. Shiva is one of the universal controllers. Of the Trimurtis, Shiva is one of the most prominent Trimurti of the material world. Three Murtis control the activities of this material world. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha. That's why they are called Trimurtis. The Trimurtis manage the affairs of this universe. So being the case, Shiva won't take it easy just on this platform. So Kashyapa is telling that. No, it is not possible. In the material world, in this age and time, in Kali Yuga, all this is possible. People identify with body, like I said, relatives, or people identify with caste. Oh, they are my caste. Or religion, oh, they are my religion. Or they are my country people, so you should treat them little differently. No such considerations. Everything will be based only on merit. What is the action that you performed? And if that action is according to proper rules and regulations, then you will be treated differently. But if you have violated the rule, irrespective of whether you belong to my same religion, whether you belong to my same caste, same country, same state, same district, same street, doesn't matter. You have to suffer for that. That's how a person of character behaves. He is not malleable. He is not an opportunist. There are certain value systems. He adheres to that value system very strictly. Values don't change according to situations. In the material world, people's values change according to situations. It's like politicians. We see how they are. They will talk. We will never associate with one party. They will, all kinds of abuses they will make against one party. But as soon as the election is, the same fellows are together and mocking the government. What kind of value system you have? There's no value system at all. Completely opportunistic system. That's the way in the material world is. So Kashyapa is telling Diti, don't think Shiva is of that category of person, that you can get away by doing all these kind of things. And in fact, Lord Shiva, in the material world, you see, people, their actions are driven by, positive actions are driven by so-called bodily connections, and negative actions are driven by vengeance. Just like, for example, we say, in India, giving you a gross example, we avoid, if a crime is committed by an Indian, the way we see it, and the same crime is committed by a Pakistani, we see it differently. Oh, that is Pakistani. Because this Dehatma Buddhi, we are identifying with the name, place, country and all those kind of things. No. Irrespective of whether he is anything, you have to see by the merit of that action and then deal with it. So here, everything in the material world, everybody decides by our own so-called material calculations. So Prabhupada is in this point, in this translation, it is mentioned that how Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as very favorable or abominable. You see? He does not regard anyone as very favorable or abominable. In the material world, everybody sees it like that. If your neighbor does a crime, then you saw your neighbor, my God, he's such a criminal fellow. The same thing, if your child does a crime, then the father will tell what? Mistake हो गया बस क्या कर सकते हैं माफ कर देना चाहिए. That is the way in which the materially conscious person sees. He sees somebody in very, that is the same, that this kind of seeing is called favorable and abominable. So Kashyapa is telling Diti, no, Shiva is not like that. He's not like that. He sees everything from proper eyes. And even when he is chastising not out of vengeance. Just like, for example, in the material world, like I give you the neighbor example, when somebody is chastising the neighbor, they are doing it out of vengeance. Oh, he is my vengeance. I want to smash him. Whereas Lord Shiva, when he is chastising also, it is the chastisement for guiding that living entity to come out of this tendency to violate the laws of material, to violate the material laws. It is out of compassion that they are punished also. Like Krishna's punishment is out of compassion, not out of vengeance, not out of revenge. If Krishna is giving pain to somebody, Krishna wants us to learn from that painful experience. Because sometimes pain is very essential. Living entities when they don't learn, so pain has to be injected into that person so that the living entity does not commit the same mistake again and again. That's why it is called compassion. That pain is compassion. Just like, for example, when our relative, close family person, they become sick. When they become sick, they're already in pain. And in that pain, we take them to the doctor. And the doctor will give so many different kinds of treatments. And treatments will make the painful person even more in pain. Put the person even more in pain. But yet, we ask our own relative to please tolerate the pain. And our own relative forcefully gives pain to that relative. What is the reason? The reason is we have to cure the disease, means there has to be some additional pain that person has to take. So similarly, in this material world, when we do sinful actions to correct our sinful propensities, suffering is given. That suffering makes us think, oh, I should not indulge in these kind of sinful activities. I should not do this kind of wrong actions. That makes the living entity introspective. When the living entity loses his introspective nature, he immediately starts committing various kinds of sinful actions. We have to be always introspective. Only when you relieve, when you achieve the Raganuga platform in the perfect state of pure existence, that time you will do everything instinctively, naturally. Till that point of time, we are supposed to be in introspective nature. Means every action we do, we should to measure it, whether this is right, wrong, take it into proper things, and then engage in that action. Otherwise, very difficult. We have a tendency to commit sinful activities because that's born out of our old habits. Our conditioning will take over, and by the effect of conditioning, we commit sinful actions. So there are various rules and regulations for living entities to follow. So, like for example, Diti's requirement of having children, and for that reason, indulging in sex act is not wrong. Per se, it is not wrong. For procreation, one is allowed to indulge in sex, but then there is a way to go about it. There is a prescribed format for it to happen. Like it is mentioned that how Prabhupada says, our Shastras prescribe before indulging in sex, a married couple has to do Garbhadan Sanskar. There is an elaborate ritual how one should involve. Where is Garbhadan Sanskar in this example of Diti and Kashyapa's indulgence? It shows there is no regard for any Vedic practice. They are just driven by instinct. By instinct, Diti is feeling, I want to have children, so I want my husband to have sex with me. No. Instinctive behavior is not the right course of action. So, in our times, Prabhupada said that if in our society, Prabhupada instructed that what is the format for a grihastha devotee to practice for procreation. Prabhupada says, yeah, some devotee asked Prabhupada, though in our society, should we do what is Garbhadan? Because there is an elaborate ritual for that. How is Garbhadan to be practiced in our society? So Prabhupada said, no. Garbhadan Sanskar, you don't have to do the Vedic ritual like that. Prabhupada said, simply chant 50 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra. Both wife and husband should chant 50 rounds. And then if they, after chanting say 50 rounds, if they have this one, then that child will be a devotee of the Lord. He will produce a nice offspring. This is Prabhupada's formula. In Kali Yuga, we cannot have that big Vedic rituals and all those things. Our Garbhadan Sanskar is just chant 50 rounds. That's Prabhupada's method. So easy given. He is an empowered Acharya. In fact, Prabhupada writes in a letter, I just copied that letter. It says, Prabhupada is writing in that letter, if it is unavoidable, then it should be utilized only for begetting Krishna conscious children. In that case, the husband and wife should chant at least 50 rounds before going to sex. The recommended period is 6 days after the menstruation period. Letter to Shyama, Los Angeles, 18th January 1965. Please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter of January 14, 1969 and was very glad to hear from you. You have asked me some questions about the function of sex life in Krishna consciousness, and the basic principle is that it should be avoided as far as possible. However, if it is unavoidable, then it should be utilized only for begetting Krishna conscious children. In that case, the husband and wife should chant at least 50 rounds before going to sex. The recommended period is 6 days after the menstruation period. I am glad that you are helping out in tending the deities. Yeah. So the essential point is that nothing is meant for our personal enjoyment. Out of all enjoyment in the material world, sex enjoyment is the highest enjoyment. So we must understand, no, even that enjoyment is not for our enjoyment. When we hear this, my God, that means what is this living entity? There is no enjoyment at all. How can we exist? Living entity cannot exist without enjoyment. No enjoyment at all. You are not asked to enjoy anything. How is it possible to exist in this world? Vaishnava's idea of enjoyment is he enjoys in the enjoyment of Krishna. And when Krishna enjoys, he gets enjoyment. That is the mood of our actions. It's a big, just imagine the level of consciousness that we must develop to really come to this platform. What is our consciousness? Our consciousness is we are always anchoring after various kinds of enjoyments. Always in every action we want what is there in me, what is there in it for me, what is there in it for me, what is there in it for me, what am I going to get, what am I going to get. Oh, somebody gives us this service, Arey, I wanted that service. Why we are not saying that, Arey, the service is not for you, the service is for Krishna, the service is not for to make you happy, the service is to make Krishna happy. So our consciousness is not at all developed. We see everything from our perspective of seeing what is happiness, whether I am going to get happiness in that. That's all. That is the only barometer of our existence. The only barometer is, am I going to be happy with this? I will join the temple. Why? Because I feel nice in the temple. No. Okay, that consciousness is fine, but it is not a very high level of consciousness. Consciousness should be, I am joining the temple to make Krishna happy. It's not for me. This high consciousness should be shifted to Krishna consciousness. Our material consciousness means high consciousness. Everywhere we want to add this high. And the essence of spiritual life is to remove this I and put Krishna in that. That is the essence. Nothing is meant for our enjoyment. And this is the spirit of Lord Shiva. That is the spirit of Lord Shiva. That, no. Prabhupada is giving the example that the Lord Shiva, Shiva's wife, controls the entire material universe. She is Durga. All the material riches are there with Durga. But yet Shiva doesn't even own a house. He lives in the crematorium. So he is completely detached from personal sense gratification. He has not even a trace of any sense gratification. Completely. In the material world, anybody who has little wealth, immediately they have plans. I want to do this. I want for my children like this. I want for my wife this one. I want for myself like this. They are only thinking about themselves. Everything they are thinking, that is completely material consciousness. When we ask, come, you serve Krishna, give for Krishna. Hare, why should I give my wealth for you? They are so possessive about it. And they have no idea that possessing with nature, if you give up, you will experience far more higher pleasure. You will experience freedom. Very difficult. They are so attached to that. That as devotees, we should understand that the more possessive we are about things, the more our Krishna consciousness suffers. The more we are liberal, the more we enjoy freedom, the more we enjoy happiness, the more we enjoy satisfaction. For us, that is our learning. In our preaching, when we become very processive, my donor, my this one, my contact, my this one, all these things actually reduces our uh, Krishna conscious experience. It is all avidya, not vidya. It binds us to the material experience. See, so much learning is there. When we read Bhagavatam, it takes us where and all, what and all different shapes and forms our consciousness needs to refine. When we sit and analyze, oh, this verse can be thought about in so many different angles. That is why reading and understanding and analyzing and thinking about this verse, it's not simply like in the school every day when we were children, morning we have reading time in the house. Blah, 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 papa, blah, 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 that finished time, and then go away. And then in the exam, blah, 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 whatever we are to write it. Our scriptures we should read and immerse ourselves, take it into our heart and see where and all, which and all portions I need to clean. Just like a maid servant, a paid maid servant and the owner of the house. A maid servant will come what? And then they will clean the house. I remember in my house, when the maid servant used to come and clean, no, my mother used to always tell that no, getting the maid servant is useless because she is just doing Kanapurti work. She will just clean like this, top, 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 and run away. So my mother said, I will only clean. When my mother is cleaning, she is going every nook, corner, every spot, cleaning those places. Actually, our reading should be like that. We should think what is written. Think all the different angles of it. Otherwise, Bhagavatam will appear very, very, what is there in this? What is there so much in that? Prabhupada said only one shloka per day. In one class, only one shloka will be discussed. Hare, so much subject. What is there in this one shloka? Prabhupada says about Gita, if one shloka you understand fully of the Gita, you can become liberated. So much tattva, so much knowledge is there even in one verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Same is the case with the Srimad Bhagavatam. We can see the various dimensions of Krishna conscious tattvas that are present in these divine verses. We need to refine our consciousness. That's the essence of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll stop here if there's any question, comments. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की